Hello there, my name is McHorse and welcome to Skin&Bones mod overview video. Skin&Bones is a mod which allows you to add animated models into the game. This mod provides 3 different ways to use animated models in the game, using embedded animations, target selectors, and metamorph. Each one of these ways has its own pros and cons, which I will discuss later in the video, but first we need to get some animated models added into the game. Skin&Bones uses a specific format for models, which is called BOBJ. In essence, it's an extended OBJ format which supports vertex weights, armatures, and animation data. To get a model in BOBJ format, you'll have to use Blender and Exporter script to export models in BOBJ format. Before exporting the model, I need to tell you more about this format and its limitations. Currently, BOBJ supports only one texture per mesh, so no support for materials. Also, BOBJ supports only Euler XYZ rotation type for animation data. So make sure that you animate using XYZ and not any other type of rotations like UYX or quaternion, or otherwise the bone rotations will show up incorrectly in the game. That's basically it about BOBJ. Here I have a rigged and animated model which is ready for export. Go to File, Export, Blockbuster OBJ, find Minecraft's config folder, enter Skin&Bones/models folder, create a new folder for the model, and export the model as model.bobj. Once you exported the model, you also need to copy textures to the models folder. Textures should be placed into textures/meshname folder, where I said mesh name is the name of a mesh in Blender's model. By default, Skin&Bones will use default.png texture for the mesh in appropriate texture folder. So, for my model, I have one mesh named body. I create a new folder named textures, enter it, create a new folder named body, copy my texture there and rename it to default.png. Alternatively, you could launch Minecraft and execute command /snb reload. This will make Skin&Bones generate folders for you, and only then copy your textures. Now, we can use this model for embedded animations. If you want to use BOBJ models with target selectors or metamorph, you also need to configure your models for usage with those features. Feel free to skip this part of the video if you're not going to use target selectors or metamorph mechanics. In this video, I will cover only most basic and necessary parts of configuration. Everything else is covered in the documentation. Alright, first you gotta make sure that you have a particular set of actions stored in Blender. In essence, an action is an animated pose which is designed for a particular state of an entity. In Blender, they can be found under Dope Sheet panel in Actions editor. I won't get too much into details about which actions should be present in Blender, since in the future new actions will be added. So, take a look at the documentation for a full list of supported actions. In this video though, as you can see, I have at least idle, running, and sprinting actions. Moving on, let's try to use this model without any configuration. It looks a little bit bigger than it should. I can see the model holding any items in its hands or turning its head. Let's configure that. To start configuring, first we need to create a file model.json in models folder. Open this file in the text editor, and here we can configure the model. Let's start with the simplest task. Let's configure the head. To make the head turning, we must specify the head bone. Go to Blender and look up the name of the head bone. Copy its name and write it down in the config. Reload the models, and now you will see that the head is moving. Great! Now let's configure the scale. Go back to config and add a scale property. We need to downscale the model. I'll make it 3 times smaller than it is. Reload the models and you will see that now our model is about the right size. Finally, let's configure the held items rendering. To add the rendering of items for each slot, you have to specify bone or multiple bones which will render item for that slot. So go back to Blender, find which bones you want to use for main hand item, remember it, then go back to config and add it to the right hand property. Do the same thing to off hand slot, but only writing it to the left hand property. If you will reload the models, you will see that there are items getting rendered, but they're probably oriented or shifted in the wrong way. That's why we also must configure items transformations. It's not really hard, but it requires some tweaking to get it right. Within the object for the hand bone, you can specify translation on X, Y and Z axis, and X, Y and Z rotation. Here I've got some transformations prepared beforehand. And if I'll save the config and reload the models, we will see the items oriented correctly. Although everything looks right, the rendered items seem to be small. This is because we downscaled the model. So, we need to scale up the items to the inverse value of the scale to get it back to the same size. Reload the models again, and there we go. Now, we have a fully functional model which can be used by Skin&Bones. Make sure to check out the documentation for even more configuration options. Finally, I can show you 3 mechanics which you can use to use animated models in the game. Embedded animations mechanism allows you to place your animated models anywhere in the world. It doesn't require an entity or block to display it. It's really useful for decorations. Be aware that they are always rendered, even when you're not looking at them, so keep in mind, it may affect the performance. Embedded animations can be managed in the Animations menu. To open this menu, you can use a keybind, which is O key by default. There are a few panels over here, which allows you to manage different states of your animations. The right bottom button opens panel which allows you to add or remove currently running animations. Let's add an animation here. Next, there is a config panel that allows you to configure metadata of an animation. Here we can select the model that we want to use. Now we can see the animation running. Alongside the animations list, there are also a few self-explanatory fields. Moving on, Transformations panel allows you to position, rotate and scale an animation. Finally, there is the Mesh panel. This panel allows you to manage the configuration of individual meshes. Hidden and smooth texture checkboxes are self-explanatory. Meanwhile, default action and texture fields need more explanation. Texture field allows you to specify the path to a texture using resource location format. Resource location is a format which specifies a path to some resource in Minecraft Resource Manager system. It consists out of 2 parts separated by a column, the main and path. The main gives the system a clue in which resource pack to look for a resource, and path specifies the path relatively to that resource pack. The path is heavily depends on the implementation of resource pack specified in the domain, but all you need to know is that a path for Minecraft domain specifies a path to resource within Minecraft jar under assets/Minecraft folder. Meanwhile, a path for s&b domain specifies a path within Skin&Bones models folder. Here are 2 examples of resource location for Minecraft domain and Skin&Bones domain. Action field allows you to specify an action to be played back on this mesh. For example, you can have 2 meshes that have completely different actions. Second mechanism is called target selectors. This mechanism allows you to apply an animated model on entities based on some given criteria on the client side. It's useful if you're caring about your model's privacy, because it allows you to use animated models on other players without sharing the model or even asking the server or other players to install the mod. It means that you can use your animated models even on multiplayer servers. It's a really cool feature in general, since you can replace almost any entity with an animated model. Target selectors can be managed in Selectors GUI, which is accessible by pressing the P key by default. On the left, you can add, remove and move selectors. When you added or selected a selector, you can edit target's name tag and entity type. You can also change model and provide some NBT information for that model. For more information about NBT configuration, please check out the documentation. In selector field, name and entity type, you can also use exclamation mark in front of the name or the type to negate the selector. For example, if you want the model to be applied on all entities that aren't named Alex, you put into the field exclamation mark Alex. Same applies to entity type. Finally, there is Metamorph integration. It works similar to target selectors, but it also allows you to store your models in acquired morphs, works with Blockbuster, allows you to construct morphs in Morph Builder menu, and finally, models can be easily accessed in Metamorph's Creative Morph menu. I hope this video helped you to understand what kind of features Skin&Bones provides, and help you to get your models into the game. Additional information can always be found in the documentation. If you have any issues, feel free to contact me. Thanks for watching, and goodbye!